2:47 a.m. The cardiac monitor flatlined. A four-star general lay gray on the gurney, exotic toxin burning through his bloodstream. The blonde rookie nurse bypassed protocol, administered a classified antidote from a sealed military kit, and restarted his heart. But when the FBI ran her credentials that morning, the system froze. Level 5 security clearance. A classification so restricted that only 12 people in the entire U.S. government hold it. The lead agent had level 3. His supervisor had level 4. This 26-year-old nurse outranked everyone in the bureau. Her name was Sarah Chen. 6 months on the job. No military background, no intelligence record, just a nursing degree from a state college and a studio apartment in Arlington. But level 5 clearances aren't granted by mistake. They require presidential authorization, biometric enrollment, and a lifetime of compartmentalized service. So when the agent demanded answers, the database returned a single redacted line. Codename Archangel. Status terminal sanction, and the phone on his desk began to ring. 8 hours earlier, the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center hummed with controlled evening energy. A charity gala for wounded veterans had spilled from the ballroom into the VIP wing, champagne flutes clinking against the sterile hum of medical infrastructure. General Harlan Vance, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stood near the balcony overlooking the atrium, 72 hours from deploying to NATO headquarters in Brussels. He was discussing classified logistics with the Secretary of the Navy when his vintage Bordeaux slipped from his fingers. The crystal shattered against marble. Vance didn't clutch his chest or gasp for air. He seized his spine, jackknifed backward with supernatural rigidity, eyes rolling to arterial red. Pink foam flecked with blood bubbled from his lips. His skin turned a mottled gray-blue. Hypoxic wrong. The secretary froze. Guests screamed. Secret Service agents surged forward, weapons clearing holsters, shouting for a medic. But one person moved toward the general, not away. Sarah Chen cut through the chaos with the efficiency of a scalpel. She wore standard blue scrubs, no rank insignia, no combat medical badge. She wasn't assigned to the VIP floor. She was pediatric overflow, pulled to adult trauma for the evening due to staffing shortages. Her badge read RN3, 6 months provisional status. She dropped to her knees beside the convulsing general, ignoring the Glock 19s now pointed at her head. Pinpoint pupils, she snapped, prying open Vance's eyelids. Bronchial secretions, muscular fasciculations, organophosphate nerve agent derivative, not cardiac. Get the military antidote kit from secure storage, biometric lock immediately. The lead Secret Service agent hesitated, finger hovering near the trigger. Who the hell are you? The only person in this room who knows he's dying in the next 90 seconds, she said, her voice flat, calm, devoid of panic. Move. They moved. Sarah didn't wait for authorization. She rolled Vance onto his side, maintaining airway clearance with a jaw thrust technique too refined for standard nursing curriculum, her fingers finding pressure points with the precision of a field surgeon. When the steel case arrived, matte black, sealed with a fingerprint scanner rated for level 4 clearance and above, Sarah pressed her left thumb to the sensor. The lock disengaged with a soft hydraulic click. She didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. She drew a syringe marked classified, toxicological countermeasure, atropine derivative, and injected it directly into the external jugular with the confidence of someone who had done this under fire. Vance's convulsions ceased instantly. His breathing stabilized, shallow but regular. The cyanosis receded from his face. The room exhaled as one organism. Sarah stood, wiped her hands on a sterile wipe, and vanished into the gathering crowd of generals and senators before the chief of staff could secure her name. 3 hours later, FBI Special Agent Marcus Webb arrived from the Washington field office. Counterintelligence protocol demanded immediate investigation of any potential assassination attempt on a flag officer, particularly one involving chemical agents. Webb was 42, methodical, a 15-year veteran of domestic terrorism cases who had learned that coincidence was usually choreography wearing a mask. He interviewed the catering staff, the Secret Service detail, the cardiologist who had initially mistaken the seizure for cardiac arrest. Everyone told the same fragmented story, everyone except the night supervisor who pulled Webb aside with pale cheeks. That nurse, the supervisor said, she wasn't on the VIP roster, she wasn't even supposed to be in that wing. In that case, she opened, that's DOD property, biometric access only, level 4 minimum. Webb found Sarah Chen in the staff break room on the third floor, sipping stale coffee, reviewing pediatric immunization charts. She looked tired, ordinary, 26 years old, with the soft accent of Midwestern suburbs. She explained she had recognized organophosphate poisoning from a documentary on chemical warfare. She explained the biometric case must have malfunctioned, a glitch in the scanner. She explained she had just gotten lucky, being in the right place at the right time. Webb almost believed her. The explanation was neat, plausible, boring. Then he ran her credentials through the FBI's National Crime Information Center and the DCSA database. The query processed for 12 seconds. Then the screen blanked. Then amber warning text appeared, followed by red level 5, security clearance detected, access restricted, code name Archangel, status terminal sanction. Webb stared at the last line, his mouth going dry. Terminal sanction wasn't a protection status, it was a liquidation protocol, authorized for immediate termination upon compromise. He reached for his secure phone to call his supervisor at the Washington field office. Before he could complete the dial, the black secure line on his desk rang, a direct line reserved for National Security Council communications. He answered. "This is General Haynes," a voice said, gravel and winter. "You have 60 seconds to delete that query, erase your search history, and forget that name existed. Or you won't live long enough to make detective." Webb didn't hang up. He placed the receiver down with deliberate care, his eyes still fixed on the amber warning text flickering on his monitor. Terminal sanction. The words carried weight from another world, a lexicon of black sites and disappeared persons. He had encountered redacted files before, compartmentalized programs that made congressional oversight look like theater. But he had never seen a living person tagged for immediate liquidation by executive authority while standing in a hospital break room 12 feet away. His finger hovered over the delete key. Protocol screamed at him to comply, but 15 years of investigating terrorism had taught Webb one immutable truth. The moment you accept that some questions are forbidden is the moment you stop being a law enforcement officer and become a functionary. He pulled his personal phone from his jacket pocket, the one not routed through FBI servers, and snapped a photograph of the screen. Then he deleted the query, watching the amber text dissolve into the standard blue interface, erasing the digital footprints as ordered, but Webb didn't leave. He opened a secondary database, the Bureau's legacy system from the 1990s, not connected to modern DCSA integration. He typed Sarah Chen's social security number with the hunt and peck precision of a man aware that every keystroke might be his last. The system groaned, then displayed her file, or rather, it displayed the absence of one. Sarah Chen, born March 15, 1998, in Madison, Wisconsin. Parents, Michael and Linda Chen, education. University of Wisconsin Nursing Program, graduated 2023. Employment history, Walter Reed, 6 months. The data was pristine, linear, obvious, too obvious. Webb cross-referenced the university registrar. The nursing program confirmed her graduation, provided her transcripts, even attached her senior thesis on pediatric trauma response. But when Webb called the Wisconsin Department of Motor Vehicles to verify her driver's license issuance date, the clerk paused. "That's strange," the clerk said. "The record shows issuance 2022, but the photograph was updated last week." Biometric re-enrollment, federal override code. Webb felt the first cold thread of genuine fear. Federal override codes didn't apply to state driver's licenses, not unless the subject was entering witness protection or exiting it. He drove to Sarah's apartment in Arlington that night, disobeying the direct order to stand down. The building was standard government housing, mid-tier, anonymous. He flashed his badge at the night manager, who led him to Unit 412 with the tired resignation of a man who had seen federal credentials before. The door was unlocked. Webb drew his weapon, standard entry protocol, and pushed inside. The apartment was empty, not vacant. Empty, the refrigerator hummed with a single carton of skim milk and a bag of carrots. The closet held 6 identical sets of scrubs. All new tags removed, but creases still visible from packaging. The bed was made with military precision, hospital corners sharp enough to cut paper. On the desk sat a laptop, open screensaver cycling through images of nursing school graduation. Webb touched the keyboard. The computer woke to a standard Windows desktop, no password protection. Files arranged with unnatural neatness. A simulation, a stage set. But beneath the bed, Webb found it. A steel footlocker, matte black, locked with a biometric pad. Not fingerprint. Retinal scanner. Military-grade Webb photographed it, sent the image to a contact at the Pentagon's investigative service, a friend from his Marine Corps days who owed him a favor that didn't exist on paper. The response came in 7 minutes. That's Tier 1 Special Operations Equipment. Delta, DevGru, ISA inventory. Where the hell did you find this? Webb didn't answer. He was staring at the wall above the desk, where a photograph hung slightly askew. Sarah Chen in her graduation gown, smiling beside her parents, except Webb recognized the man. Michael Chen. Except Michael Chen had died in 2003, a contractor in Iraq, killed by an improvised explosive device in Fallujah. Webb had processed the forensics on that case himself as a young agent attached to Baghdad. He remembered the file. He remembered the widow, the funeral, the flag. Linda Chen had died of ovarian cancer in 2015. There were no parents. There was no Sarah. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Sarah Chen wasn't a person. She was a construct, a legend, a meticulously fabricated identity inserted into the civilian population with surgical precision. But for what purpose? And why would someone with Tier 1 military equipment, someone capable of recognizing exotic nerve agents in seconds and bypassing biometric security locks, be working as a pediatric nurse in a government hospital? Webb's phone vibrated. Not his work phone, his personal cell. The number was blocked. He answered. Sarah's voice came through, calm, devoid of the Midwestern softness she had affected earlier. "Agent Webb," she said, "you're standing in my bedroom. You're looking at a photograph of parents who died 20 years apart. You're wondering if you're losing your mind. You're not, but you're about to lose your life if you don't leave that apartment in the next 45 seconds. Webb gripped the phone, his weapon still raised. "Who are you?" "Not who you think," she replied. "Not who I was yesterday. The woman who saved General Vance wasn't a nurse. She was a trigger." And someone just pulled it. The line went dead. Webb heard the sound then. Not footsteps, not sirens. The soft whup-whup, whup of rotor blades close, descending fast. A Black Hawk, running dark, no navigation lights. He ran. He didn't grab the computer. He didn't photograph the footlocker. He sprinted down the fire stairs as the roof access door above him exploded inward, the sound of military boots hitting concrete in perfect unison. 3, 6, 12 operators. Not FBI, not local police, no insignia. He caught a glimpse through the stairwell window as he hit the second-floor landing. They wore multicam uniforms with Velcro patches removed, faces obscured by night vision mounts, even in the interior light. And they moved with the fluid economy of men who had done this in actual war zones, clearing rooms with angles and arcs that spoke of hostage rescue and high-value target extraction. Webb burst into the parking lot, his Bureau sedan 30 feet away. He made it to the driver's door before the spotlight hit him. Not from the helicopter, from a second vehicle, a black Suburban that hadn't been there when he arrived. The driver's window rolled down. General Haynes sat in the back seat, his face illuminated by the blue glow of a tablet. He looked up at Webb with something resembling disappointment. "I gave you a chance to be smart, Agent Webb," Haynes called out. "Now you have a choice. Get in the vehicle, or I have the Joint Special Operations Command explain to your director why a counterintelligence agent was found with 3 bullets in his skull in a known drug den, compromising an active national security operation." Webb looked at his car, then at the Suburban. He looked back at the apartment building, where the helicopter was now lifting off, its cargo presumably secured. The pieces assembled themselves with terrible clarity. Sarah hadn't poisoned the general. She had saved him. But the act of saving him had exposed her, activated something dormant. Terminal sanction wasn't a protection order, it was a fail-safe. And Webb had just tripped the wire. He got in the Suburban, the door locks engaged with a heavy thunk. Haynes didn't look at him. He was typing on his tablet. "Your security clearance has been upgraded," Haynes said quietly. "Welcome to the compartment, Agent Webb. You're now part of the cover-up you were trying to solve, and before we reach the Pentagon, you need to understand exactly who Sarah Chen really is, because she's not the assassin. She's the weapon. And she's been aimed at the president for 6 months." The Suburban cuts through Georgetown's empty streets, the partition glass raised, sealing Webb and Haynes in a cocoon of leather and silence. Haynes finally closes his tablet and turns to face the agent directly for the first time. Operation Archangel was authorized 48 hours after 9/11, Haynes says. DARPA, CIA, Special Activities Division, and the Joint Chiefs. The objective was simple: create 12 operatives who could infiltrate any institution, wait indefinitely, and activate without warning. Total deniability. Each asset was drawn from Tier 1 units, declared killed in action, then rebuilt with surgical precision. New faces, new voices, implanted memories cultivated over 18 months in black sites. Webb's hands tighten on his knees. Sarah Chen, Captain Elena Voss, Haynes corrects. Army Intelligence Support Activity. Presumed dead in a helicopter crash outside Raqqa, 2019. She had 87 confirmed kills, fluency in 4 languages, and a psych profile indicating extreme suggestibility under chemical induction. Perfect substrate for the program. And the president? Webb asks. Protection detail, Haynes says. At least that was the cover story. In reality, Archangels were sleeper assassins. Insurance policies. They would embed in the target's life, become invisible, then eliminate the threat upon receiving the chemical trigger. The organophosphate derivative used on General Vance wasn't just a poison, it was a key. When Sarah smelled it, her hypothalamus should have flooded with synthetic neurochemicals, overriding her civilian identity and activating Elena Voss. She should have let him die, confirmed the kill, and reported to her handler. Instead, she administered an antidote and disappeared into the crowd. Webb processes this, the horror assembling itself piece by piece, so the programming failed. Worse, Haynes says, it's degrading. Sarah has been exhibiting independent decision-making for 6 months. The nursing degree, the apartment, the mundane life. She's not following protocol, she's building a resistance. That's why terminal sanction was initiated. Not to protect her, but to erase her before she remembers who she really is, and turns the training against her creators. The vehicle slows, descending into an underground parking structure beneath an unmarked office building in Crystal City. They exit into a concrete corridor lined with biometric scanners. Webb is escorted through 3 successive checkpoints. Each guard wearing the same multicam uniform, faces blank, eyes scanning with a detached assessment of men who have already decided whether he lives or dies. They enter a briefing room, the walls lined with monitors displaying 12 photographs arranged in a grid. Sarah occupies position 7. The others are labeled with names and mundane occupations. Senatorial aide, White House pastry chef, Department of Energy, nuclear technician, and position 12 makes Webb's breath catch. Assistant Director Karen Holt, his supervisor. The woman who assigned him to this case 12 hours ago. We activated them yesterday, Haynes says quietly. All 11 except Sarah. Someone issued a mass command using the chemical trigger. We found it in the ventilation system of the West Wing. Trace amounts. Enough to prime the hypothalamus without causing physical symptoms. The president has been breathing it for 3 weeks. Webb spins toward him. He's compromised. Controlled, Haynes corrects. The vice president discovered Archangel 6 months ago. He's been using the chemical triggers to build a shadow chain of command. Tomorrow morning, the president will suffer a catastrophic stroke during his intelligence briefing. Painless, untraceable. One of the 12 will administer the final chemical cocktail, and the vice president will assume power under the 25th Amendment. Unless the steel door hisses open. Sarah Chen enters, but she is not the tired nurse from the break room. She wears tactical multicam, her blonde hair cropped short, a suppressed Sig Sauer P320 in her right hand. Her posture has shifted entirely. Shoulders back, center of gravity low, the movement economy of a predator. She looks at Webb, and her eyes are different, harder, ancient, unless the defective asset stops them, Sarah says, her voice carrying the ghost of an accent Webb can't place. I didn't save Vance because I'm broken, Agent Webb. I saved him because I woke up 6 months ago when they tried to activate me the first time. I've been pretending to sleep, following their protocol, waiting for the moment to strike back. The apartment you searched was a signal. I left the footlocker for you to find. I needed someone outside the compartment to verify what I suspected, that the other 11 are active, and that I'm the only one who can get close enough to stop them. Webb looks between her and Haynes, the final piece clicking into place with terrible clarity. You brought me here to be a witness? No, Sarah says, checking the magazine of her weapon with practiced efficiency. I brought you here because you're the only other person who knows they exist, and because in 40 minutes we're going to walk into the White House medical suite and you're going to help me kill 11 people who look exactly like me. The motorcade never arrives at the White House gates. Instead, they exit through a service tunnel beneath Crystal City, emerging in an unmarked ambulance that merges with the morning traffic on Pennsylvania Avenue. Sarah drives, her hands steady on the wheel, her eyes checking mirrors with the mechanical precision of someone counting exits. Webb sits in the back, the Sig Sauer heavy in his waistband, his FBI badge feeling like a toy compared to the clearance Haynes provided, a black card with no name, only a chip that opens doors which do not exist on building blueprints. They enter the White House through the medical wing loading dock at 4:37 a.m., the hour when human alertness drops to its nadir. The guard recognizes Sarah's scrubs, her tired posture, the coffee cup in her hand. She is invisible because she is ordinary. Webb follows 3 paces behind, carrying a cooler marked whole blood, O negative, his face set in the bland mask of a technician who has seen everything and remembers nothing. The first Archangel appears in the kitchen corridor, the White House pastry chef from the photograph grid, carrying a tray of croissants toward the executive residence. Sarah stops walking. The chef stops. They stand 10 feet apart in the dim service hallway, and Webb sees the recognition flicker in the chef's eyes, the chemical trigger seeking its target. Sarah speaks a single word, Archangel, followed by a sequence of numbers that sounds like a date. The chef's pupils dilate, her hand opens and the tray crashes to the tile. She collapses, not dead, but sleeping. The synthetic personality purged by the counteragent Sarah developed during her 6 months of feigned compliance. They drag her into a pantry and keep moving. In the West Wing corridor, they encounter the senatorial aide, position 1, standing near the Roosevelt room with a water pitcher. He reaches for his lapel microphone, but Webb is faster, striking him with the butt of the Sig Sauer, then injecting him with a syringe Sarah provides, a clear liquid that enters his jugular and drops him instantly. He'll wake up in 6 hours with no memory of the last 3 years, Sarah says. The programming can't survive without the chemical foundation. The medical suite is guarded by the night duty nurse. Position 4, the woman from the photographs. She looks up from her station and her eyes meet Sarah's. For a moment, nothing moves. Then the nurse's hand drifts toward the panic button beneath the desk. Sarah repeats the phrase, the date, the code, and the nurse slumps forward onto her keyboard, breathing steady, dreaming of whatever life she had before they hollowed her out and filled her with violence. Webb secures the doors while Sarah moves to the president's private examination room. The target isn't the president himself, but the ventilator system above his bed where the final chemical payload waits to induce the catastrophic stroke. But Sarah stops at the threshold. Inside, standing beside the bed where the president sleeps peacefully, is Assistant Director Karen Holt, Webb's supervisor. Position 12. She holds a syringe filled with amber liquid, and she is smiling. "You were always the flawed model, Elena," Holt says, not turning around. "The others accepted their purpose. You had to remember what it was like to be human." Sarah raises her weapon, but Holt continues, "If you shoot me, the president dies. The syringe is pressurized. My thumb releases on death. The only way to save him is to let me complete the mission. The vice president takes power, the archangels go back to sleep, and you get to keep playing nurse." Webb steps forward, his FBI training overriding the paralysis of the moment. "Then we don't shoot you," he says, and fires twice into the ventilation grate above Holt's head. The bullets sever the chemical delivery lines. The payload hisses into the open air, inert, dispersing into the room's filtration system. Holt spins, but Sarah is already moving, crossing the space in a blur, striking the syringe from Holt's hand with a blow that shatters the woman's wrist. The device clatters to the floor. Webb kicks it away. "You don't understand," Holt gasps, clutching her arm. "The vice president isn't the architect. He's the failsafe. The real command issued from someone else, someone higher." Sarah presses her knee into Holt's throat, leaning close. "Who?" Holt's eyes roll back. She bites down hard, and Webb realizes too late cyanide tooth cap. She convulses once, twice, then lies still, the secret dying with her. The president stirs in his sleep, unaware that his death was prevented by 3 feet and 30 seconds. The cleanup is surgical. General Haynes arrives with a team that wears no insignia, packing Holt's body into a medical waste container, sanitizing the room, replacing the ventilation filters, and dragging the unconscious pastry chef and aide into waiting vans. They will wake in private facilities, their memories scrubbed, their futures unwritten. The president will wake at 7 a.m. to a normal briefing, never knowing that his nervous system was a battlefield. Webb stands in the corridor watching Sarah remove her tactical gear, replacing it with the scrubs of the unconscious nurse. She is becoming Sarah Chen again, layer by layer, the hardness draining from her posture, the exhaustion returning to her shoulders. You could expose all of this, Webb says quietly. The program, the vice president, the assassination attempt. The world would believe you. Sarah looks at him, and for the first time, he sees genuine emotion in her face. Not the performance of Sarah Chen, not the lethality of Elena Voss, but something in between, a woman choosing who she wants to be. And replace one conspiracy with another. The country doesn't need to know that its leaders can be manufactured like widgets. It needs to believe the system works even when it doesn't, especially when it doesn't. She hands him a folder, the complete files on Operation Archangel, the locations of the other 9 assets still at large, the chemical formulas for the triggers, and a handwritten note with a single address in Montana. Burn it, she says, or bury it. Your choice. But if you ever come looking for me, Agent Webb, it means you didn't trust me to stay dead, and if you don't trust me, I'll know. And we won't be friends anymore. She walks away down the service corridor, back toward the loading dock, back toward the ordinary world of pediatric wards and studio apartments. Webb returns to the FBI office at 9 a.m., submitting a report that identifies the poisoning of General Vance as a catering accident, a bad batch of imported wine. The case is closed by noon. The vice president resigns 3 weeks later, citing health reasons, and is sent to a facility in Wyoming that does not appear on maps. But the final detail comes 6 months later. Webb is cleaning out his desk, preparing for a transfer to the Chicago field office, a promotion that feels like exile. He finds a photograph slipped beneath his keyboard. It shows Sarah Chen standing in the background of a crowd shot at a presidential rally in Ohio. She is holding a child, a little girl with blonde hair, and she is smiling the real smile of someone who has chosen their own face. On the back, written in precise block letters, there were never 12, there were 13. The 13th was the template. The original. The mother of the program. She escaped before they could erase her. Check your birth certificate, Marcus. Check the date. Webb's hands shake as he pulls up his own file. His clearance lets him see what he couldn't see before. Born March 15, 1984. The same date Sarah whispered to deactivate the nurse. The same date listed in the Archangel files as the master activation code. His phone rings, he doesn't answer. He already knows who it is. The phone keeps ringing. Webb watches it vibrate against the desk, the screen displaying a blocked number, the same blocked number Sarah used in the apartment. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The folder she gave him sits open, the pages scattered, and he understands now why Haynes upgraded his clearance so easily, why the Suburban was waiting, why he was allowed to see what he saw. He wasn't recruited to stop the program. He was activated to test whether the original template could still function. The question isn't who Sarah Chen really is. The question is who Marcus Webb was before he became Marcus Webb, and whether the man investigating the conspiracy was actually the architect of it all along. Operation Archangel never had 12 assets. It had as many as it needed. They walk among us in scrubs and suits and police uniforms and postal trucks, waiting for the chemical trigger, the specific date, the moment when the ordinary facade cracks and the weapon underneath emerges. We pass them in grocery stores. We sit beside them on trains. We trust them with our lives in emergency rooms and government buildings, never knowing that their kindness might be programming, their competence might be training, their humanity might be a mask waiting for permission to slip. The file Webb holds contains the names of 9 others still sleeping. He could burn it, he could bury it, or he could open his office door and find out if the knock he hears is a delivery, or if it's someone who shares his face, his clearance, his purpose, coming to collect the original before he remembers too much. The line between protector and predator has never been thinner. And somewhere in Arlington, a blonde nurse checks a child's temperature. Her fingers steady, her eyes scanning the room for threats, wondering if the man she saved will choose to wake up, or if he'll stay asleep like the rest of us, comfortable in the fiction that we know who we really are. If this story made you look at the person beside you differently, if it made you wonder about the quiet competence of strangers, then we did our job. Subscribe before you forget why you care, because the next time you need saving, the hand that pulls you back might belong to someone who was built to let you fall. Stay safe, stay aware, and never assume